Maybe we've finally figured this thing out here. We shall see. All right. We'll try not to do too much echo. I'm just making sure this works. All right. We'll try not to do too much echo. So I'm still working on getting my chat set up so that I can see it while I'm playing. We don't have that option set up yet. However, this is still practice for me. It's new tricks for an old dog here. So I'm just going to play a little bit and talk a little bit, and we'll do some just custom battle stuff here. Nothing too fancy, although we are running the battle size mod. And we're just going to do a little bit of tactics here. We are going to defend Aserai Castle, which is a castle that a lot of people express difficulty with. I can tell you this is one of the worst castle models to defend. Aserai Castle is one of the many models that the Empire has, the Imperials have, and it is shit. The angles are bad. It's a very open and convoluted keep, and all we're doing here is 1,000 versus roughly 400. And the troop levels, or the troop skill levels, are roughly equal for both sides. And what I mean by that is both sides have tier 3 or better only, right? There's no scrubby troops for each side. All that said, I'm going to just leap into this and kind of see how this goes, fellas. Forgive any technical difficulty we have along the way. We've got a beautiful setting here for battle defense. I'm just going to really briefly jump out of this and make sure that it is broadcasting. It looks like it. And again, I have no idea how this is going to go. This may go very badly. In fact, earlier today we had a little trial run. And in 3 successive siege defenses, we got our asses kicked because Bannerlord is hard, even if you know what you're doing, even if you have a lot of experience. So I'm going to kind of narrate as I go along here and sort of give you sort of my main idea of what I'm doing for this defense. This defense, as you can see, it's very open. There's this whole separate right wing over here, and you can individually defend these. In fact, it just occurred to me this is the perfect way for me to just jump right into this. Take a nice deep breath. I've got those same butterflies as I felt when I was playing softball, like, I don't know, 30 years ago when I would play competitive sports. I've got like butterflies, even though I know there's no pressure at all here. It's the first time though, right? So just like you younger fellas, I still get uncomfortable trying something new. What we're going to do this very first time is very simple. We're just going to let the AI bumble through a defense here. In fact, I'm going to take the main character. We've got the RTS mod, so this will actually be a lot faster. Don't worry, I won't make you watch the AI all night. But we're going to see what the AI does here, and also establish a baseline, right? If you're just along for the ride for this keep defense, can you actually win, right? With the AI, we will make fun of the AI some. We will observe some of the AI's behavior, and of course, part of this is practice for me streaming. I don't know how much of this I'm going to do. It kind of depends on the demand of you fellas out there. If you want to see a lot of future episodes streamed, then we shall see. I'm actually streaming from the firehouse, where I'm a full-time firefighter. I drive a ladder truck on a regular basis. Sometimes I'm in charge. Other days I'm what's called the lieutenant or the driver. So we're just sort of watching what the AI does here, and a lot of times it's not so terrific, right? Their archers are up here. Let's slow this down just a hair. Again, we're using the RTS mod, which is beautiful, right? We can slow things down, we can pause it, and we're observing essentially what they're doing is trying to defend all of the locations at once, which, as I've talked about in the channel, rarely works well. What ends up happening is you start following Sun Tzu here. He who defends everything defends nothing. And that kind of is what is occurring here. They have their defenses sort of stretched thin, and they're sort of experiencing breaches at multiple locations, and the enemy doesn't even have the ram yet up to the door. So this castle defense, part of the reason it's so difficult is because it's so spread out, right? When I zoom way out here, these guys on the right, don't really have any help from the guys on the left. In fact, all these walls that are way back here that I'm sort of centering in on, I don't even think you can use these. Unfortunately, there are a lot of locations and castles and cities that you can't use. And so that is one of the difficulties here. Now, we're going to defend this with some tactics and some troop positioning later on. We will play it at normal speed. Again, I should have said this at the beginning. This will probably be an hour long, and it actually could be 8 minutes long if we get a fire call or any other emergency where I have to run off. This is just going to be the nature of it. Now, to be fair, I will be streaming most of the time at home, and apart from the wife coming in and saying, God, you're still playing? There won't be any interruptions, right? We're going to have most of our streaming I'll do at home with a higher quality mic. This is one of our sort of middle tier quality mics. The AI is not doing terribly here, but like I was concerned about in one of the locations, look at the enemy, it's killing themselves. Their own trebuchets just crushing their guys. Like I was concerned about, right? They're going to start to have breaches. According to the power bar, of course, this siege is over. And again, this is because they spread their defenses really thick. And these guys are like, shit, man, we're good to go here. This keep is defended. Meanwhile, here comes the enemy foaming at the mouth. Suddenly defenders are surrounded by enemy forces here. And I'm going to go ahead and end it here. This is enough. It's a nice baseline here to know that the enemy lost 600-ish troops. So the Allied AI here with roughly 400 defenders actually didn't do terrible, right? What is that, a 1.5? Not quite a 2-to-1 KDR. Let's see if we can beat that, right? So we'll do all the same settings, of course, and jump. Whoops, I'm still on the sergeant, so we'll have to bounce back and fix that. Undoubtedly, I'm going to have all kinds of little snafus like that. Earlier today, my monitor, for no reason, and it's a beautiful, nice HD monitor, Ultra HD monitor, was doing all kinds of weird stuff. So there's going to be some hitches in my gallop here as we start. Of course, streaming is very new for me. Bannerlord, at least uploading YouTube videos of Bannerlord is also very new for me. All right, so the dipshit AI is removed from control. You know me, right away we're going to start expanding some divisions here. I like to have a lot of control, a lot of ability to micromanage. I know a lot of you guys are expanding to more and more divisions, and so that's what we're going to try to show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an 8th Corps. I like to explore the castles. They're very beautifully designed. They're not necessarily great for siege, but they are beautiful. I like to wander around them, especially on a sunny day like this. And what you notice line of sight things like this. This back wall here, fortunately, we can use that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a lot of archers back there, right? We're going to put like 65 archers back here. And for the most part, I don't anticipate them being harassed too badly. Why? Part of the reason is that if the enemy gets up here, they will be getting shot from our other locations, right? Which is one of the keys in castle defense or city defense, or frankly, just being on the battlefield, is having archers in different locations. So the 8th is down here, the 6th is there in a big long line. And again, I don't have a coherent strategy already worked out. This is going to be a work in progress. I have, of course, defended this castle before. You guys probably have. Maybe you do it better than I do, for all I know. Maybe you're like, well, that's dumb. Don't do that, dude. There's definitely a possibility of that. I'm wrong a lot. Ask my wife, right? There's going to be some mistakes along the way, but that's how you get better. So we are going to form, that's interesting, the 2nd Division is archers. Not thrilled about that, but we'll make do. I don't want to change the units up here, as it'll slow this episode down a lot. So the 2nd Corps, I will use this as a javelin division, but honestly, I'm thinking pretty early on, why do these guys have bows? Because that's the 2nd Division. My fingers are used to the 2nd. We're just going to do it. My fingers are used to the 2nd Division being skirmishers, and it's a good thing to mention. Really, you want to stick to the same units consistently doing the same thing, because otherwise in the heat of battle, it's highly likely that you will give the wrong orders to the wrong unit and something disastrous will happen. I always encourage guys use consistency with their units. So this is a nice bottleneck here, and as you'll see, what we want is the enemy coming through here and getting stuck on this square, right? This large tranche of the 4th Corps. In fact, we'll make him in charge of the 4th. He's got a worthless banner. But the idea here is basically to pen the enemy up and then, of course, pound them with arrows. We are going to defend the wall just a little bit unorthodox. I'm going to try the 6th Division. There's actually a huge amount of guys in the 6th. Let's see. Let's split the 5th. Oh, the 6th is there already. Okay, that's right. So the 5th division I'm going to try right here. I don't think this is going to work very well. I think these guys are going to get the shit shot out of them. But we'll try them there and see if they can pressure the gate or the ram as it comes up. All right, so 2nd Division skirmishers, honestly, those guys will be pulled back very early on. This 3rd Corps, we'll pull them back there. And before I start, I just want to go and see the chat and see you guys are talking trash and stuff like that. They all just charged. All right, Jesus, there's a lot of chat. Right on, fellas. Well, I'm glad you guys are enthusiastic about this. Hopefully the music isn't too loud or I don't sound like I'm talking through a fucking muffler or something like that. But we're gonna see how this goes. Again, no experience really doing streaming other than the debacle we had earlier today. If you missed it, it was pretty comical. I was like, well, this should be successful, and it failed. And then I was like, oh, shit, well, this should be successful, and it failed. It's sort of emblematic of the game, right? This is a difficult game, and failure is inevitable. I feel like I'm missing a division here. 4th, 5th. I like to do a little recap here. 6th. Yeah, so the 6th is back there. 7th and 8th. All right, everybody's in position. Let's do this shit. Now, I'm going to save you guys some time, right? Time is important to you guys. Time is important to me. If I get that fire call in 10 minutes, hopefully at least you get to enjoy a little keep defense here before I've got to run off. So, of course, the 3rd Corps, you know, I like to have a shock troop division. They will be responding like emergency responders to the emergencies as they pop up. And these guys, yeah, you know, they're getting shot off the walls, quite literally. I'm already going to change this. I mean, it's very tenuous. It's like right on the edge of being worthwhile. And it's an eye test, right? You're observing them. Are they shooting the shit out of the enemy or are they getting shot, right? Like this really is... and this is kind of a close situation. Like, I know they're scoring kills, but they're also shooting at shields. So we're going to pull these guys off here. Let's see. First, I need to... This is the 5th Corps. Let's pull these guys off. We'll switch this out of... Shit, I'm going to get hit with javelins. We'll pull this off of RTS mode for the moment, and we'll start dragging these guys. Get over here in line formation. Sometimes you got to stick them in line formation. They get fucking obstinate. And let's stick them right here. This is not optimal, right? Because the enemy's going to be pouring in this direction and potentially charging these guys. But of course, right behind them, I have this 3rd Corps ready to go, ready to charge. I wonder if this guy. Yeah, we'll take some javelins. Let's see. We dumped some worthless throwing axes here, and the enemy equipped us with some javelins here for us. All right, so let's observe some enemy behavior here. Sounds like they're pounding on the wall. We're doing a little bit of skirmishing over here. I got to be careful with my character. I should have mentioned that earlier before I died here. If your main character goes down in siege while I'm running at this fast speed, even at slow speed, usually calamitous things happen right away. I don't actually like what's going on here already. Let's make major adjustments right away. I don't like this. Follow me, 2nd Division. Let's move the 1st back here in a square. We're going to switch places with these two guys. The 4th I'm going to stick back here as an auxiliary wing. I like to have units where I can sort of pull the fire alarm when bad shit happens. Now, the key to this whole strategy is archers firing with crossfire, right? All of those archers back there on the back wall. We've got archers down here. This 3rd Corps, there's an archer line right here. There's kind of a bit of chaos here, so we're going to bring... this 3rd Corps, the enemy's sort of pushing their way through here because, of course, that other side, we have literally no troops. So what are we going to do? We're going to give them this 3rd Corps, these guys with their fucking two-handed axes. In fact, we have too many units kind of crowding in here. These archers are kind of taking a beating. That's okay, though, right? We got to try to protect the areas that are vulnerable. So the 3rd Corps gets told to charge. Those guys should be able to do some good work. Now, the 3rd Corps is no longer here, right? I'm thinking about that fact. That's just part of it. The enemy's starting to push in with guys with shields, but I have this other division, right? This 4th Division. If you remember, I was going to use that earlier down here. Now we're going to pull it over here to help with this side. And of course, what we're doing here is we're just creating death traps for the enemy. You can just hear the enemy being shot to death up here. And that's a real nice. We got a little lane for our guys to march through there. We'll put them in a square over there as well. And these guys, of course, just like me throwing my javelins, these guys are highly vulnerable. They can't move. A lot of these guys are facing the wrong direction. And what are we trying to achieve, right? We're trying to achieve, thank goodness there's no friendly fire, by the way. You know, we're trying to achieve a 4 or a 3-to-1 KDR, right? We're outnumbered, 1,000 to 400-ish. So we need to, we need to see a lot of death for any enemy death here. And certainly the death spam. The death spam looks good, right? Over here, in fact, these guys should be pulled back because the enemy can't even be shot at and killed over there. This square is holding out beautifully. These guys here, I'm tempted to just pull them back. Now, as soon as the enemy's visible, charge, right? The third corps gets told to charge. I may do a little bit of fighting, but of course this guy, like one shot, it's very different than me using my normal character. I get into a lot of trouble in battle when I think I'm just a badass, and actually I have a guy in paper armor. This guy gets hit by a javelin and he gets staggered. It's a pretty sad thing. Who's this division following me? I forgot I had these skirmishers on follow. We'll correct that, and we're going to get these archers lined up better here. There is going to be more enemies coming, fortunately. Actually, they're lined up in a big pile there. Let's get them down here and just spread them. Now, where else can the enemy get in? I'm trying to think. That is the third corps. Those guys need to be kept on a leash, right? Otherwise, they will charge to the end of the moon. I think the enemy can come through here. So we're going to keep an eye. Yeah, look at them. In fact, they're rallying there. Fuck you guys. I see you over there. Oh, shit. I got disoriented. I was like, I'm locked in here with them. So what we're going to do here is just put our third corps right there for now, right? At least they won't just come in here and start shredding our archers. We've got a little line of defense as soon as the enemy comes in here. And look at how effective this is, right? This is just amazing. The enemy's coming in, and there's definitely some people that are like, oh, you're using exploits. The enemy's bottled up. You're just taking advantage of the AI. Well, a human opponent wouldn't have a lot more to do with this situation either, right? We've got a square here. I guess they would try to flood here. But then all we would do is simply move this square back, right? Of course, one of the things that I'm hoping long-term is that there's a lot more, what is it called, PvP, where it's player versus player, and you guys can take the tactics that you learn here and elsewhere and just butcher the guys who are like, oh, F1, F3, and let's rock, right? And you're going to be like, yeah, we're going to rock, all right. We're going to rock and rip and roll on your fucking carcasses after this battle is scorched. I can actually just sit down here. This looks so bad for the enemies here. So a battle where the AI lost the first time. In fact, let's just speed this up. I'll respond to emergencies if they arise, if they start pouring down there. But I swear this is the same battle, and the enemy is just being pulverized. I mean, we're suffering a loss here and there, right? The squares aren't invulnerable. And I'm watching over here. They're sending archers, which is sort of comical. LOL. Well, these are not archers. Let's slow it down here. That looks like elite infantry. So we'll bring the third corps over there, right? We've got the second corps here just hanging out, right? We've got this auxiliary unit just waiting to attack. Meanwhile, the archers are working. And of course, that's something I'm sort of belaboring at this stage on the channel, is that archers are too powerful in Bannerlord. This is where they're really supposed to earn their bacon, right? Is tooth defense. It's unfortunate that in some cases, I'm going to slow this down here. You see this square starting to get small? We're not going to let that happen, right? We're going to bring this second corps and say, okay, the first corps is getting a little weak. Let's add some guys to this first corps, right? We basically just steal some from that division and fatten up this square because we can't have the enemy all of a sudden pouring through the breaches here. But we've done lots of tests where, unfortunately, even like 500 sharpshooters in the open field against 500 cons guards, and they actually do pretty well, right? They do a very serviceable job. And against like elite cataphracts, the sharpshooters just torch everything in sight, right? It's a rout. Banner Knights, it's even worse. Of course, sharpshooters would not be fighting against Banner Knights, but the emphasis, though, the bottom line is all that point is that archers are too powerful in Bannerlord. Well, until that's changed, right? Why wouldn't you use them? Unless you want a challenge, of course. And my preference for a challenge, when I have a situation like this where you just have a really good defense, is to apply more enemy pressure, right? If I win this siege, and I'm not going to do it tonight because I don't want to bore you guys, but what I'll do is I'll do a siege like this. We'll speed this up again. You can actually see from the power bar, this battle's over. In fact, I'm going to go back here. We're just going to tell 3rd Division to charge, and let's just do this. In fact, this battle's fucking totally over. Even though the enemy's steamrolling us over here, you can see what's happening here, right? 1,000 arrows are pouring in here. They just don't have any chance. They're all bottled up. If there is a huge breach there, they might have a chance, but I think we're just going to let this battle play out. I'm not even going to micromanage it and finish my spiel about archers and challenges. I think if you want a bigger challenge, what you should do is give the enemy a lot more units, give them higher level units like this. This line here that's pushing in on us, this is all elite cataphracts and legionary. I think it's more interesting for me to try those kind of challenges rather than say, well, I'm not going to use archers. Sort of the artificial things that guys do out there. Some guys are like, well, I'm gonna play this whole fucking campaign in a in my birthday suit, run around naked. I'm not going to use any perk points. None of that's realistic, and so I prefer to use some of the game dynamics that are already present. And then just give the enemy more troops, right? Give them higher level troops. I'll talk more about things like the strength and AI mod later on. So a battle here where you're a sergeant and your dipshit AI does a decent, valiant job trying to defend, but you lose. Here you take control and fairly effortlessly without swinging my axe a lot. We butchered this Northern Empire force pretty severely. Now, I don't know if I'll cover Veron Castle. Veron Castle right here. I actually failed to defend this earlier today, but I did come up with sort of an interesting way, an alternative way to defend it. That was kind of fun, so maybe we'll get to that. But let's try an Aserai Castle. They're hard to find. They've got weird names. I think that's an Aserai Castle. Let me just take a look here real quick. And I'm also going to glance to make sure. This is the only way I know how to do it, fellas. Make sure you guys are still in here chatting. There's 20 people. That's more than enough for me to consider this worth my time and worth your guys' time. I appreciate you guys all the way. By the way, this is my first official, quasi-official streaming episode. We'll be saving, I think it's recording the chat and stuff like that, so we'll be saving all that stuff for the future. Yeah, so this is a nice Aserai Castle to defend. I've defended this once, I think. For the Epic Siege series. By the way, please leave lots of feedback here, even negative feedback. I'm still learning. You can leave constructive criticism like turn the music down rather than the music's too loud, you stupid fuck. I'm not watching anymore. Just help me out, fellas, and I will make or hopefully make the appropriate changes in episodes to come. All right, so let's do this again. We'll do this really quick. And just kind of see what happens here when we do the sergeant route. Again, it's 1,000 versus 400, and both sides have roughly equal quality troops. We'll see how this goes. Give them quite a few archers, right? That way they have a chance of counter-firing our archers. We must defend the walls and not let them inside. Brilliant, dude. That's a great idea. Let's see what we're going to do here. This might be a little comedy hour. I can run around a little bit. Here, we'll do this the fastest speed so I don't waste your guys' time. And of course, I can't talk about things like the strength and AI mod. I apologize to the fellas out there on console. I understand. How the fuck do you get up there? I honestly don't know how to get up there. The fellas that are on a console, I apologize. When I talk about mods, believe me, I wish you guys had mods. It's not like an attempt to troll you fellas or something like that. I honestly have no idea how you get up there. There's a stairway there. All right, it was just follow these rats up the walkway here. But the Strength and AI mod is something that I'm considering using for the Aserai campaign. If you don't know, I'm planning on doing probably a 30 to 40 episode Aserai campaign in about a month. I'm going to take a little break from Bannerlord. I wanted to dial in the streaming part a little bit better. May do another one of these or two before taking a little more thorough break. My wife and I are going to do a little bit of traveling, and I do have some episodes that are just scheduled to load. So those fellas out there clamoring for more episodes, you got it, right? I'm proficient. What's some words I can use here? Prodigious. We can use a large vocabulary. I'm capable of a large amount of content for you fellas because I can play at work, right? But I'm making, I don't want to tell you how much, I'm making a lot of money though right now playing on duty in the fire department. So I'm going to run this Aserai campaign later on this year, probably a month from now. But I wanted to dial in the streaming, and I want to make things difficult, right? We've already had a little bit of a practice run, and it's kind of massacre city, especially with some advanced tactics. The enemy really doesn't have much of a chance. That's right, this guy can't jump. He's like insta-killed. I don't think we can actually see that much from this guy, so we're going to fly around the battlefield. Hopefully this doesn't make you dizzy. I find it a lot more instructive to see what's happening. Let me finish that point, though, real quick. So the Strength in AI is a mod that I've been turned on to that is highly configurable, and I'm going to have to play with the configuration a little bit. I probably will make a whole episode discussing mods that make Bannerlord more difficult, because, of course, some guys out there are experiencing dramatic success once they apply tactics to Bannerlord, and the next thing you know, the game is too easy. Look at this guy. This is fucking so amazing. He's just fucking killed and hanging off there. The game's not perfect, but, man, it's a good game. And of course, just like the previous time we watched the AI, what are they doing? They're thinning their defenses out. They don't have any archer support. Of course, a lot of their archers died on the walls. For some reason or other, these cowards are sitting back here by the main dungeon. The Allied forces here are at least inflicting some losses, but I don't think this is a siege they're going to win. Kind of like that first one, 1,000 versus 400. Seems like it's doomed for them. In fact, most of the troops are routing. We're going to wrap this up. Again, a baseline here. Again, very similar to that other battle. They killed about twice as many troops as they died. 2-to-1 KDR. That's the easiest way to say that. That's not terrible. Right? That's not bad at all. And I don't know if we're going to be able to exceed that. Of course, there are some castles and cities where it's better to leave the AI in charge. But we're going to give this a shot here. And I'm already thinking we're going to defend that inner central corridor there. So everything's all the same here. We'll use let's use a guy that looks like an Aserai. He's got some javelins, right? That's more appropriate here. His banner's not really going to change anything materially. And oh shit, god damn it, I did it again. We're sergeant again. We'll have to just back out here. We must defend the walls and not let anybody inside. Didn't work too well for you there the first time, did it, bud? All right, so in we go here again. And I'm going to design what I hope is a massive amount of crossfire in here. And of course, we will have to watch this backside, right? If you've noticed in these keep siege defenses for this, I haven't done any siege at all, right? I'm not using the fire catapults or anything like that because I don't want to unbalance it, and I don't want to destroy their siege towers. They have 2 siege towers because the purpose of this is instructional. I want to essentially simulate a worst case scenario where the enemy gets both of their siege towers up and a ram. That is the worst case scenario, apart from a hole being blown in the wall. And I suppose we could do that for some of these episodes in the future, but we'll try this just like this. All right, so let's get creative here. I do have this inner dungeon. Now, this outer thing here is vulnerable. I'm not going to put any troops out there, I think, which means that our 300 or 400, I can't bring up the bar. I think we have about 400 troops, is going to be very compacted in here. And that's not terrific, right? Because that means that you're going to have archers, asses and assholes and elbows. They're not really going to be able to move very well. They're going to be, a lot of them are going to have their line of sight fucked up by that. Well, tell me I can put guys there. I was going to say, I'm sure I can put guys here. Sometimes you really got to play with that, right? And I won't spend, or I will spend 3, 4, 5 minutes in important sieges, because having your units set up correctly before an important siege, to me, is like one of the most vital things you can do in siege, right? You need to have guys set up in good spots, because once the battle starts, unless you're using the RTS mod, it's much, much harder to move those units around. As you can tell, right? We got this bird's eye view. We can put these guys exactly where we want. It's much, much harder to do that once the battle starts. So we will just start configuring some units. Second division, that's skirmishers. Of course, you see me do that all the time. I guess, I might as well give his banner to the 3rd Corps. We'll make the 3rd Corps like I typically do. We'll make them shock troops. And I'll cover this very briefly here. If you want shock troops, right, only shock troops in a division, you see how I have 4 infantry divisions here, 4 archer divisions, 4 infantry divisions. What I've done is each one of these, and I think you can do this on the console as well, you apply this shield. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a weak division, a weak 4th division, and a strong 1st division. And my idea is if the enemy comes from behind, I'm not going to do that, right, because then these guys won't have any support. But here, we can do this. On the other side, if the enemy starts pouring in from behind, I will do something like that, right? We will do essentially squares on both entrances, and on some level, we'll have some protection. I think the enemy, they could still pour through the walls and stuff like that. That's what will make this fun, because who knows what's going to happen. And by the way, this is a great teaching tool for yourself, right? I do this a lot, even today with, I think it says I have 9,000 hours playing Bannerlord. It's something stupid like that. I still fiddle around with this menu because you can learn a lot, right? You can try all kinds of different things. If it doesn't work, you just fucking reload the game or try a different battle, and that experience, right, can be taken directly to the game. So 8th Division there. I don't want all the archers on one side. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to jam this 7th Division kind of up here with the palm trees and shit like that. Sometimes there's a hill that it's actually beneficial where they're standing on a hill, and so you can stretch them a few times. If there's a bunch of guys who can't see, right, if there's like palm trees in their way, move them, right? You just got to move them out of the way. Similarly, when you zoom in, you start the battle, if all the skirmishers are in their way, tighten those guys up, right? That way at least a lot of those guys can shoot. All of this stuff is vital stuff at the beginning of the siege. And if you design a siege well, at this stage, you will get to a situation where you don't need to fight a lot, right? I've got this little ramp right here, this little platform. Those archers don't have perfect line of sight, but it's pretty good, right? A lot of those guys are going to be able to shoot. And look at the crossfire, right? These guys get attacked up here. In fact, this is a weakness. Where's this siege tower? It's going to come... The siege tower is going to come right here, I think. I think that's why the wall is broken there. And so you can sort of see that this side is going to be vulnerable. So we'll keep this 3rd division of shock troops ready to go, ready to kill them. And I think I finished that point. The infantry, 3 of the divisions have shields selected. And then the one that doesn't have shields, I select highest level troops. And that gives you a division that looks like that. It's not entirely shock troops, but it's almost entirely shock troops. So a big 1st division of strong troops, a weaker 4th division. Let's increase that first just a little bit. You really want that primary gate to hold, even though we can add units to it later. Some people either don't do that or find it uncomfortable, and we will start this. At this stage now, I've talked too long, and let's go. All right, so we will speed up this early stage here. Try not to get killed by counter siege. Now, of course, our units are quite vulnerable to enemy siege here, right? Especially the squares. If you really want to be a perfectionist early on, I've got no problem with you doing this. If you want to bring your 4th Corps and tuck it against the wall where they just can't even be hit, or it's very difficult for them to be hit, I've got no problem with that, right? Guys are getting hit out there. In fact, I might have just saved them a bunch of hits because I literally see shit blowing up out there. Obviously, if a bunch of fireballs and shit land in there, onagers and trebuchet shots, those guys are going to suffer grievously. Now I'm only doing this part just to know when to take the speed off, also to give you just sort of an overlay of the battle. I'm not going to use this to scout necessarily these episodes. I'm going to slow it down, and again we're going to pop out to the chat menu. All right, you fellas are checking it out. Right on, fellas. And you see a giant phalanx coming up, and none of that's really like information we can use. I did that simply to know if I can speed things up or slow things down. Right? I don't want this taking forever. You can hear them pounding away on the ram out there. All of this stuff is very standard stuff. This is all sort of the foreplay for the real battle. So these guys just landed. Oh shit. I'm going to slow things down, and let's get that 4th Corps sent back there. Now here's another thing I want to do. This 2nd division over here, I'm going to have those guys bows down. Why is it saying bows down? That's disconcerting. I don't think they have bows. Let's make sure. Yeah, see, I want those guys. I don't think I configured that 2nd division well. A lot of javelin throwers, in fact, are in this 1st division. Optimally, what I like to do is have that 2nd division be my skirmisher division. Every guy has 5 javelins, and that way, of course, you can apply massive pressure to the enemy when that situation occurs, right? When the enemy is really pressuring you, you can just unload a hail of javelins. All right, now I'm gonna have to do some scouting in this battle, right? I'm gonna just speed it up here a little bit, and just like prison, taking a shower in prison, right? We are going to watch the back, right? The enemy, it looks like they're coming up the siege tower, but it looks like either because of the pathfinding or for some other reason, they're abandoning that location. Now, we would see, as you can see here, we would be defended and ready for it if they did. Okay, let's expose this side to the enemy. We can always charge with those shock troops. You can see them coming down the ladder wells there. Now, those are archers, so we don't want those guys just getting plowed. So we'll send in the 2nd division over here, right, to cut off these guys from getting to the archers. It's a little variation of a false gap, and in fact, we will do a little false gap here. Let's pull this 3rd Corps up here to help these archers, right? These guys are getting mauled. Behind us, of course, there, the 2nd division is charging. I still have the 4th division in auxiliary back there, right? They're basically ready to go, and all you will hear up here is just guys getting killed, guys falling off because they're getting shot over and over again. I'm going to put the 3rd right over there. And this probably feels similar, right? Just like the first battle, we are sending these war dogs up here to make sure that we don't get skewered on the walls. So I just charged with the 4th Corps because I don't like what's going on at the gate. The enemy's really pouring in. In fact, that's where the pressure is. And so like a good first responder, a good firefighter, we are going to put the resources where they're most needed. In fact, we're going to move this archer division back. This 4th division, we're going to square it as well. So what we're going to do here is a little variation of a false gap. What else we got here? So the 4th and the 2nd. Let's pull the 2nd back. Let's wait until the 4th Division gets there. See how many enemies are right there? You do not want all of a sudden just to pull your units back where there's going to be a massive breach. Now the 3rd Corps is a mix of shock troops and javelin throwers. You can see what's going on here. We have a false gap. And look at the death span, right? It's a massacre. As soon as the enemy's occupied, we charge, right? And all of a sudden, the enemy facing these 2 different squares has a bunch of shock troops roaring up, and you can see the death span, right? It's just a flush of green as they get just absolutely eviscerated. Then we'll pull that 3rd Corps back. The 2nd Corps is pretty diminished, but I'm going to pull them back as an auxiliary wing in case I need to use them behind us. It doesn't seem like that's going to be a situation in this battle. But again, so I have this 3rd Corps, these 2-handed axe-wielding motherfuckers. I chop wood. We've got a nice fancy furnace for our house, but both for exercise and just because of the primal desire and feel of having a wood fire. I chop wood and we have a wood fire, every other day in the winter. These guys are essentially me roaring into the wood pile and just, cutting everything to shreds. But these guys are vulnerable. These 2-handed shock troops, right? Their job is basically to kill when the enemy's occupied. You'll see this theme over and over again on the channel in our different episodes. And this is why I recommend specializing your units. Now, these guys are jammed up. You can see how many of these dipshits can't see at all. Now, I'm kicking them, but it's not their fault, right? This is my fault for not spreading these guys better. So again, we'll do a little tending to our units here. We'll basically spread them. Sometimes they get moved around by combat. Other times they get moved around by accident. Whatever the case is, right, we want to micromanage those guys so that most of those guys can shoot. They can't all shoot because this castle is not perfectly defended or perfectly defendable. And look at those 2 squares working, right? Let's send these boys in again. You could just cycle this over and over again, and it would probably be effective. Each time the enemy comes in, they're distracted. In fact, a lot of these are archers. They now are getting chopped wood, right? This is a very bad situation for them. Not a lot of commentary needs to be left on that, right? This is a really bad situation. Over here, all of these archers, that's got to be 120 archers, are completely free to just fire bolts into the back of the enemy. In fact, we can get some target practice. We can fire some javelins in here as well and just add to the carnage. I'm going to pull the 3rd Corps out of there, again, just to keep using them in this diabolical manner. And the enemy is flat out getting pasted here. And what I really like about the custom battle menu is for the guys who are like, well, you're just winning because you have a high-level army or cheats or something like that. There are no cheats in the custom battle. As far as I know, you can't, give yourself extra health or something like that. Certainly my character doesn't have any advantages, right? He's a big pussy. In fact, now that we're at the end of this battle, let's see how badly this guy gets butchered trying to fight in here. But the custom battles are a really good equalizer, right? This basically makes my... Oh, shit. I'm going to get shot to death. This makes my army mortal. This makes my main character mortal, right? He's not just going to wade through like Zuvan and butcher the enemy. This is sort of the equalizer, right? And if you can win with this setting, right, in the custom battle mod, in the custom battle menu, by the way, just a quick thing, right? If the enemy's pushing archers up and they're shooting at you from the gatehouse, make them come in. Move out of their line of sight, pull your guys off to the side. So they're forced to come in like that guy. And they may have some line of sight with the edges. You can also pull those guys and say, hey, get over here. Let's force these guys. Don't know why these archers are charging. Definitely didn't tell you to charge. I think maybe because the enemy routed. I mean, this battle's over. Yeah, it is over. And what a fucking massacre, right? Man, that was almost worse. Almost exactly half our forces are left, and pushing a 5-to-1 KDR. And again, with the enemy has elite troops and we have elite troops, and we don't have like an unfair number of elite troops, right? We both have similar amounts. Of course, their commander, look at, she's still alive somewhere. I guess she's running. These are the great equalizer, but they're also just fantastic for practice, right? If you're starting up a campaign as a Sturgeons and you've struggled in the past to defend some of the cities, I'm not saying to do it with all of them. That might ruin some of the experience of the play, but pick a couple, and especially pick one that you plan on being
your citadel, right? Look at how creative you could get. This is really awesome, actually. I've never really seen this before. What a cool design this is. And I'm certain, yeah, this is rad, right? I don't think these guys will go where they're told. Oh, you know what? They will. So I'm going to spend the last 30 seconds of this live stream here. I am going to wrap this up after this. But look at this. All of this is usable. Actually, this is one of the most diabolic castles I've ever seen, because even if you lose these front areas here, actually, I just lost control of the enemy. I think that's because the enemy completely routed. You could defend this interior castle like a total badass. I mean, they have this elevated position to shoot down on the gate. Of course, they can shoot the whole courtyard. If the enemy's dumb enough to be up on this ridge here, they're going to get shot to death. And this is both the beauty and the most stimulating part of Bannerlord, is that fortunately, there's like 100 or something maps of castles and cities. There are a lot of castles that are cookie cutter, where they're identical, but there's a few cities that are almost identical. I think they tried to make every city unique. But there's a lot of castles that are unique too, like this one. I don't know if I've ever seen a castle like this before in Aserai. I think I might have done a siege here for the Epic Siege series. I sort of vaguely remember retreating back here. The point, though, is that this is part of the beauty of the game, and if you're starting a campaign and you want to do well, especially if you're a vassal and you're planning on going through the normal process, pick a castle or a city that you really like, and when you become your own kingdom, take that city or castle early on and plan on defending it in the manner that we just did here, right? You'd be shocked. Well, I'm sure you guys wouldn't be shocked based on the channel, but I think you'll surprise yourself how well you can defend using very similar tactics here, even with a mediocre army. You might be able to pull off, I dare say, an 8-1 or a 10-1 siege defense here, right? Your 220 hardy guys and some militia defending against 2,500 angry Sultan-led Aserai. That's why I play this game, right? That's the thrill of the game. There's not much more exciting than winning close battles, especially when you use your brain as well as your brawn to do so. So with all that said, friends, I think you guys are still watching. I'm just going to click a few buttons here, and it's going to end the stream. In fact, we'll go out to the little chat menu here. Can you use RTS mod on the console? I'll answer a few questions here, and then we'll wrap this up. Not too many questions. I'm going to probably go through afterwards, and we will do a little bit of question answering and stuff like that. In fact, I'll just spend a few minutes here. We will kill the music. I think you guys can see this screen here. Actually, I don't know. Wait, I can see. Okay, never mind. You can't see the screen I'm showing because of the software I'm using, which is fine. Although, let's do this. Let's get out of this screen so they're not screaming in your ear. And if you got a few minutes to ask questions, I'll hang out for 5 or 10 minutes. If you have any questions about this episode, about the channel, anything like that, right? About how hot a wife is of a firefighter, I'm here for you fellas to answer those kind of questions. I'm a very open fella. I don't have any secrets. I like to be upfront and honest about stuff from the get-go. And I love teaching, as you can tell. So I've been doing this channel now for about 10 months. It's really taken off, I think, as more and more people have discovered that tactics not only work in Bannerlord, but you get the greatest amount of satisfaction from that, right? You're going to be winning battles that you couldn't win before using your brain. And I think that's given a lot of players a new love for the game, right? The game is seriously flawed in a number of different ways, but combat and the battles themselves, despite the flaws that the battles have themselves, are just outstanding. So anyways, make sure you do this again. It was just engaging watching you stream. I appreciate you fellas. You guys have been great. And again, this is an old timer doing new tricks. I can picture some of these guys like, okay, boomer. I'm not quite a boomer, but I'm in between a boomer generation and a lot of you fellas. And of course, I understand some of you guys are in your 30s, 40s, and 50s like me too. So why do we not have more subs, such high quality videos? I don't know, man. I mean, the rate of the channel growth has exceeded my wildest expectations. That's part of the reason there are ads. I can cover that for a minute or two. YouTube has sent me a couple messages, Google, YouTube, basically saying that they reserve the right to advertise. And I guess when a channel starts to get a lot of views, the algorithms and Google's greed starts to kick in, and so they will start to pump out ads. The other thing we're experiencing is that a lot of the music I've used, I was going to say inadvertently, but sort of complacently, is copyright protected. And so even though I can show the videos with the music, which I think is an integral part of a good battle, what happens is then once it gets enough views, I think those creators, the owners of the music, in some cases, unfortunately, it's big billionaire companies, they turn on the ads and whatnot on the channel as well. Basically, like if I were to try to monetize it, I can't. All the ad money and revenue goes directly to the corporations that own all the music, which makes sense. I guess that's fine. The flip side, though, is that we're not going to be giving all our money to big corporations. I don't want you guys watching ads for big corporations any more than you already have to do so for things like Google and YouTube. So, we'll figure out something in the future. The monetization process is something that I'm still learning. A handful of episodes on the channel are monetized, and I'm sort of observing how it works and getting feedback on ads and stuff like that. Some guys have suggested a Patreon and stuff like that. We'll see how it goes. I'm not financially bereft, but at the same time, there are a lot of costs that are associated with this. For some of the music that I'm going to be running in the next campaign, I had to buy some licenses and get some subscriptions to some websites with music and stuff like that. So, of course, my wife is like, "You're doing it for 3 hours a day. Shouldn't you be making some money?" My wife is kind of a killer businesswoman. Anyways, I'll leave that subject alone. But if you guys have more questions about the channel, I'm here for a few minutes. I don't know how many more of these streams I'll do. It might be one or two. When I'm doing the campaign, I'll certainly do occasional streaming, right? We will probably have 3 to 5 episodes a week, maybe half hour to an hour. And then at some point or other, we will do maybe one live episode a week, and I'll make it, a couple hour affair, maybe 3 hour affair, so that if you can't make the time that I'm starting it, you can certainly check out part of it. All of this is amazing to me that you guys enjoy this content enough to tune in. But I think you can also watch this later. Like I'm going to try to fiddle with some of the settings so that, of course, the guys in Europe and whatnot, so that they can see this stream tomorrow, and they can also leave feedback like, "Hey, motherfucker, you could take a breath and not talk the entire time." But with all that said, fellas, make sure there's no other vital. Who would win, 9th century Vikings or 12th century samurai? You know what? It depends on the battlefield. We're going to just leave that one a nice neutral. I don't actually have an enormous historical background of the 12th century samurai. Unfortunately, a lot of my historical knowledge is Western centric. That is just sort of the nature of the world, right? Our natural tendency to be xenophobic, but also to understand our own past before we learn a lot about other people's past. Do I plan to play Bannerlord online mod? Maybe. I've gotten a couple people who actually were trying to recruit me to clans and whatnot. One guy said he would pay me to play, which is that's very strange to me, but it's also obviously that's flattering. I don't know if I have the time. I have a wife, I have a life, I work full time. I'm retiring in a year and a half. From what I understand of Bannerlord Online is that you sort of work your way through the ranks, and it's a huge open world. But it also sounds like there's a lot of players who've been playing a long time who have, like legendary armor and high levels and stuff like that, and would probably just carve a path through me. And I don't have the reflexes to, especially with the disadvantage of being low level, to compete with these elite sword masters out there. I'm a tactician, so if I'm not commanding troops, I'm not particularly useful. So I will say we'll do a little weather forecast on that. Unlikely chance of Bannerlord Online, although we shall see. Nice paid to be a commander. I don't think they were going to put me in charge. It was more like, hey, we've got a clan, and they were offering me. Anyways, I'll leave that one alone. It was kind of odd. I've had other people try to buy my save game and even the channel outright, which is also strange to me. Fortunately, money is not a big deal to me. I did exchange a save game with a guy who disappeared, so I'm a little bit, actually, not a little bit, I'm a lot hesitant to exchange save games, although there is a potential down the road where I will actually have people upload. I don't know how I would do it. I think you can do it somehow. Upload save games to a server of a really brutal fight they're having a hard time winning. Maybe it's a vital fight or just something they're curious to see how I would do it, and a little bit of problem solving. A little problem solving. Like I can't win this battle. Let's see what a tactician would do. Give this a shot, and kind of go from there. Start your own faction. I'd join. I assume this is for the Bannerlord Online. I might have to log in and just kind of run around the world and get a feel for it. A little background to that: about 20 years ago, I played a game called Dark Age of Camelot, where you ran around. Very similar, in fact, to Bannerlord. You're in charge of one dude, only there's a lot more magic. You're like putting people to sleep and blowing them up with fireballs and shit like that. And it was PvP. And of course, we had clans with voice communication, and you run around with 60 people sieging a castle defended by 30 people. It was a lot of fun, but what I learned is that there was a huge steep learning curve, and the guys who were new really got their shit pushed in, really got knocked around by the experienced players. And eventually, in that kind of a nuclear arms race, what happens is the game kind of dies because the new players come in and just get their absolutely shredded by the experienced players. And nobody wants to just lose over and over again, right? Balance is so important. So it's one of those situations where hopefully I'm not going to disappoint too many guys. A lot of people want to see me do a Realm of Thrones as well, which is it's on the list, right? I got a little state-of-the-art paper list at home with a pen, and I put a little dash every time someone's like, do this, do that, because of course I want to provide content that the most of you want to see, right? I'm not doing this for two fellas watching in a bar. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up here. Make sure there's no last questions here. I appreciate you guys. Any of these questions that I'm not answering now, of course, if it got overrun by this chat, that's a lot of chat. Right on, fellas. A bunch of enthusiasts here. I will do my very best to answer questions. And of course, most of you guys know that I do my best to answer questions during or after episodes, right? When I punch out an episode, I'm pretty good to do as best I can to answer questions. It's getting a little bit difficult because at this stage, with the growth of the channel, there's something like 100 questions a day. But I'll do my best, fellas. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to give my normal spiel here. I appreciate you, fellas. I was going to say hit like and all that stuff. I don't even know if that's relevant here. I don't think it matters. I don't think other people see this episode based on likes and all that stuff. So I'll just say I appreciate you, fellas. And I will see you guys next time.